Hello and welcome to Locutors of Trek, Season 2, Episode 4 on Leadership. We are your hosts, Davin and Dave.
Hello, Locutors of Trek, we are.
Plain Simple Tailors.
Indeed.
And many other things, depending on who you ask.
That's right. And welcoming this evening, Jeff Akin. Hi.
Of the Starfleet
nice to see you.
Good to
Leadership
see you.
Academy.
Yeah, Starfleet Leadership Academy.
An expert in leadership, you might say.
An experienced person in leadership. I don't know if anybody's really an expert, but it's a thing I spend a lot of time doing. So, yeah.
We'll get into that in a minute.
All right.
But before we do, why don't I lead us in a toast? To trekking ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
Better trek yourself before you rickety wreck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Trickety trek.
All right.
Before we wreck ourselves.
So, with that out of the way.
Well done.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of leadership, how about we have a quick rapid-fire space line with you, Jeff?
Wow. Okay.
All right. This is the space line. Ready?
Yep.
Rapid fire. Number 1, favorite show.
Deep Space Nine.
Favorite episode.
Balance of Terror.
Favorite movie.
Pulp Fiction.
Star Trek related.
Oh, Star Trek. Star Trek 2. Wrath of Khan.
Who's your captain?
Janeway.
Favorite character.
Spock.
Favorite villain.
So many of them.
His brain was exploding there.
You can watch our 2-hour deep dive into that and get more. I'm going to say Gold Dukat is probably my favorite.
All right. Favorite alien species.
I'm going to go with the Vulcans.
Planet you would most like to visit.
Risa.
I know. It's the obvious answer, but it's also the right one.
Yeah. Not with Worf. Not
ship?
With Worf though. Favorite ship is
Worf.
the refit Enterprise from Star Trek Motion Picture and 2.
The A.
The pre-A.
Oh, the pre-A. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one, biggest Herbert.
Oh my God, I can see the dude. He's in the original series. It's in the one, he's got the little bald head and he's wearing the outfit and he's always like, meh, 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 meh.
Not the Corbomite maneuver.
No, it's from the Jack the Ripper episode.
Oh!
Yeah, right?
Oh,
right.
I know who you mean.
Yeah.
The guy who's just like, it's a count. No, not the countdown guy.
No. Just the guy who's just always like, he's so annoying.
Such
so
a Herbert.
He's a Herbert, exactly.
All right. With that out of the way, good answers, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Back to the point at hand. Co-Cutor Dave, what say you about leadership?
Me? Well, I've been thinking about this, and we have it's one of these words that I don't know about in your line of work, but in the lines of work that I've wandered through in my lifetime, it's one of those terms that gets sort of beaten to death. We have to be leaders in our workplace, leaders in our communities, leaders in our minds. We have to be thought leaders. We have to be every part. It becomes this sort of like what I refer to as sort of like a it's like a sort of weird dry cleaning card word, right? Like all you can do with it is just sort of like drop it on a counter and say, here it is. But it's sort of been evacuated of a lot of meaning. So I'm curious, like when I think of leadership, I think of maybe guidance, or perhaps authority, perhaps, perhaps inspiration or something like that. But I'm sure my sense of that is not exhaustive, because I feel like I have to rediscover the concept.
So
does that make any sense at all?
It does. Yeah.
So now I turn it to you, Jeff. What is your background with leadership?
Oh gosh, background goes back a long ways. I fell into it, right? Well, and to Dave's point, like my background in leadership probably goes back to school, right? You get put in those leadership roles that are something. It's like I was in student government.
You were a gang leader.
Totally. Yeah. I beat all kinds of people in, mostly myself. But I was a class president when I was in high school. I was student body president because I was that guy. I was drum major in marching band, So like those are leadership roles, real nerdy ones, but ones that help shape me. And then I was in the U.S. Navy for a chunk of time, and that I was not we're all leaders, but I wasn't in a leadership role, but I learned so much. I was in the submarine force, and so we had a really unique culture that helped to inform what became my leadership style. But my first real official, I'm a leader in doing something, was back about 25 years ago with a movie theater chain when I became a general manager. And that's what I've been doing ever since then, is like high-level management roles. I'm currently an executive manager in the public sector, which is both awesome and terrible, but that's why they give us money to show up, right? Is the terrible part of stuff. But Dave, you're exactly right. Leadership is simple. Leadership is getting people to go from A to B.
Right.
And so it's one of those things, you hear this term, we need some good leadership. Well, good leadership moves a person or a group of people from A to B as efficiently as possible. That's it. And so you could say yelling and cracking a whip and whatever is effective. That's effective leadership, right? And that's where I think
the people moving
starts to come. It does. It gets them there.
Right. And so this is interesting. So I'm a huge fan of sort of mystical traditions of all kinds, and one of my favorite expressions emanating from one of them is the Sufi expression: right people, right time, right idea, right plan. Right, and with these four things, you can't help but achieve success, right? Or you can't help but have the best chance. And you're right that it's simple, but breaking those pieces down, I think, is where it starts to gain in nuance, or sort of to manufacture complexity from a very simple, how do we get from here to here? Let's put this into manageable steps. Oh, crap, now it's complicated.
Yeah. And I think there's so much, traditionally, and I think that's one of the big things from my perspective, is traditional leadership, especially in a workplace, is command and control, top down. I tell you what to do, you do the things, and we move. But we've found economically and all kinds of other ways, but it's business, right? So we say economically, that's not good. Like it is, we lay so much money on the table. A quick story, in my public sector world, I was a project manager for a little while. I prefer managing people to projects. Like, oh my gosh, God bless those people. But there's an organization, a program in our organization that the leadership got fired for discrimination, harassment, bully boss kind of a situation. It was bad news.
Bad leadership. Bad. So they asked me to step in to hold the fort while they cleaned everything up, got the person processed out, found somebody new. And the story I like to tell is I stepped in December, and there were 150 people in the program, 150 employees, and they were failing to meet every single service level agreement they had. So, just abject failure in everything. Fast forward to August, just a few months later, we were down to about 78 people. We had increased our throughput and outflow and were exceeding every service level agreement. And the only thing I did differently was I told the managers to get out of the workflow. Let the people doing the work handle the work, and you support them. Get out of the way. We got out of the way, and all of a sudden, I cut costs in half and was able to do a percentage point increase our productivity just by getting managers out of the way and trusting the people that do the work to do the work. And so I think we have learned from an economic standpoint that it makes sense to lead And manage, those are different things. Leading and managing are different, but we need to do it in a different way.
See, now that brings me, the way you describe that brings me to my next question, because the way you describe that sounds very Starfleet to me. Where, at least, except for like the odd person who, like, Jellicoe was a bit nitpicky and a couple others, most of them just delegate the task and then leave you alone to do the task.
Yep.
So that leads me to the Starfleet Leadership Academy. Tell us about that.
So I'm such a leadership nerd, and I think being a Star Trek fan helps with.
You're among nerds here.
It's safe, right? It's a safe thing. And I like to think of the Starfleet Leadership Academy as two great nerd tastes that taste great together, right? Star Trek and leadership. I believe one of the things I love about Star Trek is it paints a picture. It shows us that there's a better future that's possible, right? We can be more than what we are today. And I love that. But what I know, and I think most people know at some level, is to get there, we need different leadership than what we have today. And I think that like my style is more in that direction than the traditional leadership that we're dealing with now. And so I want to tell the world how to lead better. And what better way than a podcast, right? So the idea
about Star Trek.
It's something the market really needs. There's really not many
There's not many Star Trek podcasts out there.
Man,
no.
not really. Well, actually, I decided years ago, like, I'm at the time I'm a dude in my late 30s, early 40s. Why don't I have a podcast? You're supposed to have one of these, and it took me almost 10 years to get there. It actually took the response to COVID and me not having a commute anymore that did it. But I didn't know what I wanted to do a podcast on. So
the pandemic that launched 1,000 podcasts.
So many of them, and of which 4 are still running. Like,
hey, we're one of them,
right? Right here, we got 2. Half of all the podcasts left are right here.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to do a Star Trek podcast. I want to talk about Star Trek. So I go and I look and I'm like, holy crud, there are a lot of those. I think maybe something else. Oh, I'll do leadership. I love talking about, dude, Tony Robbins has a podcast. Like, they don't need me in here at all. Yeah, whatever. Maybe I don't need a podcast. And then one day I'm in a meeting that so many people have been in where it's like Groundhog's Day, like, didn't we already made these decisions? Why are we talking about this? What? Didn't so-and-so already do that? And I got really frustrated.
That'd make me crazy.
I'd
walk out of that room.
I spend a double-digit percentage of my time in that meeting where it's just like, why are we? Well, because it was on the calendar and we have to do it. And so, oh my God.
Everyone's just looking at you because you're there like.
Yeah. Well, I hit I'm like, And I said, I want meetings like Captain Kirk has meetings, right? Issue, discussion, decision, and action. Let's go. And everybody was like, oh my God. And then afterwards, I thought to myself, that's it. So I went home and I watched Star Trek, as I do, but I watched it through a lens of like, what kind of leadership lessons are here? And I'll tell you, I am 89 episodes into my podcast, and every single episode has these amazing leadership lessons in it. So I'm like, there it is. Star Trek and leadership. They're built to go with each other. And that's how the Starfleet Leadership Academy was born.
Well, that's awesome. And that's one thing we definitely agree with here is like every episode you say you find leadership. It's about why we do our thematic talks on this show. It's just like, no matter what theme we pick, Star Trek is rich with it. So
yeah. I mean, in a sense, we have sort of the inverse approach. We take on a different theme and bring it to Star Trek. You're taking this very focused way of reading Star Trek through the lens of leadership and sort of moving it through episodes, which I think is a great idea. So one of the things that
I do too.
The
really
good
episodes, by the way, go check those out, everyone.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's true. One of the things that struck me with what you said earlier, and I wanted to connect it to this a little bit, was about submarines. So my favorite episode of the original series is Balance of Terror.
Heck yes.
Right?
That's my favorite
Which
episode of Star Trek. Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant, right? And of course, based on a fantastic submarine movie in its own right. Do you feel that, I mean, that episode really captures the feeling of being in a sub, but also, are there things about submarine life that you carry through into leadership and that you carry through into thinking about Star Trek?
Very much so. I want to give credit where due is. I have my story, which I'll share, but there's two people I know and work with a lot who were officers in the Navy. One was a commanding officer of a boat. The other was a chief engineer. But David Marquet, who has a whole thing called Turn the Ship Around, intent-based leadership that he's based on submarine culture. And then John Rennie, who has deep leadership. Same, like he's built a product around this. But submarines are interesting because, like, for me, I was in there in the mid-90s. We had 124 people on the boat, and you're 800 feet or more underwater. If something goes wrong, it doesn't matter what rank you are, right? Like, you're all going to die the same. And, so you got leaks.
Enough.
Yeah, leaks that are the worst thing. You got smoke. If there's a fire, like, there's nowhere for that. You can't air it out. What are you going to do? So there's this culture of no one person is any more important than anyone else. Now, there's definitely a hierarchy, and there's stuff. I don't know what the Navy's like today, but when I was in, there's still a lot of hazing. And so you had to go through kind of, those steps. But you get to a boat, and the first real watch that you learn is dive and drive. So you got two people, one's going left and right, the other one's going up and down, and you learn how to do that. And on the boat, you got helmsman, plainsman, and then chief of the watch right next to him. Chief of the watch is arguably the most important person on the boat. They're like flipping the switches for, pneumatic and hydraulic stuff going on. They have all the alarms that are happening. Well, if the stuff goes down and chief goes out, boom, he's over. Dude driving the boat, who might be 3 months out of school, he's taken over for chief of the watch because he's right there. And so we had this incredible culture where everything we did was to survive. Right? To achieve the mission at times, but ultimately to survive, because life was literally on the line in everything we did. And so it showed us that, I was a navigator, an electronic navigator. I got to use GPS back when all you could see were coordinates. And then you had to do math to figure things out, which is still pretty great. But my division officer, my boss, was this lieutenant named Greg. I don't remember Greg's last name because I don't think I ever used it. I was stationed down in San Diego, and that's the thing. Like, if you understand military culture, it's Lieutenant Davies, or whatever.
Well, I was going to say, yeah.
And you getting familiar is not okay. But I was in San Diego. We went to the big surface base. It's on 32nd Street there to get some supplies. And we're walking down the pier, heading to whatever. And he elbows me at one point, and he's like, "Dude, if you don't start saluting the officers here, I'm going to get my ass kicked." And I was like, "Oh shoot, that's right," because we weren't on the sub base anymore.
Context.
But literally, that whole thought that the two things I really took out of that is there is no one person that's more important than anyone else, and if there is anyone that's more important, it's the people closest to the work, right? So on a submarine, the commanding officer doesn't. I mean, he does a lot, but nothing big, right? He's setting the mission parameters, making some decisions. But if he went away and the crew had the mission parameters, they could still achieve the mission. But if people in the crew went away, CO can't do that, So I've really operationalized that. I think about it like flipping the org chart, where traditionally you got person here and it's the ultimate pyramid scheme that turns into a bunch of people. I flip it and I'm like, you people doing the work are the boss. And everyone in the next layer is there literally to support you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I'll tell you, it's putting that culture and that practice into place in business. Like I shared the story earlier, cutting costs and throughput. Outside of that, I'm able, and this sounds terrible to some, but I'm able to eliminate management positions because I don't need them. And that doesn't mean managers are bad, right? But most places are super top heavy with management. This manager has this manager to that manager, and hey, did you send the thing?
That doesn't mean lawyers are bad. It's the same thing about managers.
Right?
But it is a symptom of a financialized economy, right?
Exactly.
That management layer necessarily grows, sort of almost in respect of asset inflation or something.
Yeah,
right? It's incredible.
We have to, in the public sector, we spend money that we've stolen from other people in the form of taxes. And so we have to go through a lot of real transparent exercises with our budgets every year. And one of them is a reduction exercise. If you had to reduce your budget by 2, 6, 8, 10, and 20%, what would that look like? And every time I do that exercise, I'm the first cut that I make, because I'm like, if we're that bad, we got to make cuts. You want the work done. You don't want a guy who can talk about stuff and send emails and do your stupid financial reports. Like you don't need that.
Okay, one last question about submarines, because I've seen Das Boot pretty recently. So, volunteering to go in a submarine sounds kind of crazy to me. So, did Star Trek and its similarities to submarines lead you to submarines?
I didn't want to be on a submarine. So
okay.
who
would volunteer for that? It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Well, back in the day, you got an extra $75 a month sub pay.
Oh,
like that. Sign me up for that.
Sign me up.
I wanted to be a musician. That's why I joined the military. I'm a drummer, and I'd love to.
You're among musicians here.
Nice.
Oh, right on.
Nope, there you go. Right. I'm a drummer. There, look at that. My stuff's right over there. I can't turn the computer around, but
some guitars there for you.
Nice.
Yeah, we're the plain simple tailors.
Drop
We
this
play
off the
tunes.
side of my desk now that I put it back on the stand. So you're a drummer.
Yep. So I hang out with musicians.
We don't have one of those. Come on up.
Look at that. Yeah, let's do it. But I knew going into my senior year of high school that if I went to college, I would be addicted to every drug, weigh 400 pounds, and probably be found dead on a ditch somewhere. I was not on a path where college would be a value add. So I joined the Navy, because the Navy is the only branch here in the U.S. that if you're a musician, that's all you are. Like, you're a musician. If you go to war, you still play. And their music school is world class. Like, it's great.
Oh, Navy bands.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to join as. But they said you can't join straight up as a musician. You have to audition. So I'm like, okay.
Oh.
Well, during my senior year, I got offered a scholarship to the Berklee School of Music in Boston. So I'm just, which I told my recruiter, I'm like, I'm going to do this. And he's like, cool. I hope it's still available in 10 years when you get out of prison for breaching your contract, which I later learned they can't do it either way. It's a recruiter doing his thing. But I have to audition. I'm like, yeah, I'll make the audition. No problem. I join, and they basically explained that I signed up to be a navigator on a submarine. You can't become less and be a musician. But when I made that choice to be a submariner, there's a $75 and a Star Trek. It was literally, that's the closest I'm going to get to being on a starship in my lifetime. And here I am today.
Yeah. There was no Space Force, I suppose.
Not yet.
There you go.
Now's the time.
Well, why don't we get into the leadership styles of some of our favorite captains for a moment? How does that sound?
That's fun.
How would you rate or critique Captain Kirk as a leader?
Captain Kirk is he's a better leader than people give him credit for. I think we've talked about this even here, where popular culture zeitgeist has not been kind or fair to Kirk.
Not fair at all.
Yeah. It's not who he is. Or
Shatner
exactly. Yeah. It's not who that guy is at all. And what I was really struck with Kirk in watching original series episodes through that leadership lens is what a great manager he is. Like, he's not always that super inspirational leader who's going to give that speech that fires everybody up, because he's kind of just one of the dudes in a way.
That's Picard's jam.
That's exactly what Picard does. And Michael Burnham, apparently. But with Kirk, every episode.
Jury's out.
Yeah. With Kirk, there was this scene in the Omega Glory. Is it the Omega Glory? I forget. Either way, he's down on the planet's surface, and they're in trouble, and he just radios up to Sulu and Uhura, and he says a handful of things that triggers them to say, oh, he's in trouble. We have to execute this plan. And in that moment, I'm like, dude, that they're running drills, they're planning, they're training, they're like, what's the two most important things a manager can do is provide clarity of mission and competence in skill. And he clearly has done that, where he's able to just say a couple words or do a thing, and the team's like, we got this. We
super
totally
cohesive. His team.
He brings them together, and he even does it with like people who happen to come in. Every now and then you've got the scientist who's on the ship, or the robotics specialist or whatever who happens to be there. He rolls them into that problem solving and makes them a part of the team. Kirk is a fantastic leader, a better manager, but he's also, to use the line from Spock, he's cowboy diplomacy. He's still the guy who's like, hey, that sounds cool. I'm going to go do it. Instead of sitting there being like, hey, that sounds cool. I got to do that stuff a while ago, so now I'm going to let so-and-so go do that thing. which strong leader is going to do that. They're going to step back and let the other people do that. Picard is one who does that. Janeway quite a bit as well. We'll talk about her in a little bit. I'm excited too. But yeah, Kirk is a fantastic leader, and I just take every chance I can to say, if you think of Jim Carrey and you think of Captain Kirk, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. You're wrong. No. And if you just think of Kirk as that guy who's and fighting people on exploding planets, you're wrong as well.
Yeah.
He's so level-headed, like in the original series. He's just like very, until he's not. I get, like, that's the thing. He's like, there's this great calmness and leadership and management about him, but he might just throw it all to the wind in a moment if he decides to.
He's young, right? He's the youngest starship captain at the time, and I think that plays out in the original series. Not a lot of the stuff with Kirk, I don't think was intentional. They're like, hey, we want to write a leading man for TV, who's all this stuff, and it just happened to have all the right traits for everything. One of the things I loved about the original series is so many episodes start with he's literally on the bridge like this, like just sitting back, listening. They're like, we've been charting this anomaly for the last 16 days, and they're bored, right? And I'm just like, how awesome is it? Because that's what it's really like,
There were times on TNG where they seemed bored as well.
Yeah, it's important because that's what it is. And what I loved is it was boring, but Kirk was still there. He was still interacting with the team. He wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to be in my quarters, wait till the cool stuff happens. Like, he's just kind of
that's more of a Janeway move.
Yeah,
at times. Definitely a Cisco move. All right. Well, let's move on to Picard. Dave here is favorite captain. So Dave, why don't you just launch into a little Picard for a minute?
Well,
as a leader,
what a piece of work is man. Anyway, no, I mean, Picard to me is he's a wonderful, he's a very cerebral captain. He's always sifting the elements of a question, trying to hold things in balance. But it's clear from the very beginning that Picard has difficulty and shies away from building personal relationships with his crew. One of my favorite scenes is in later TNG is when he shows up to play poker all of a sudden.
It's the last
and
episode.
The rest of the crew is like,
it's the very
no.
scene of the
Stuff
last
is
episode.
all wrong now. Because they just know
I should have done this a long time ago.
Right?
Like, no shit.
Like, no! But yeah, it's he's an extraordinarily different leader than Kirk. And again, I think we meet him at a different point in his career. We meet him after he has had highs and the brutal low of Maxia, I mean, what is meeting a captain at that stage of his career say, in some sense, right about the bat from what TNG is going to be about in terms of its questions of leadership, right?
Yeah.
You could see Stargazer Picard being a little more like Kirk.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. And I imagine he was, because he was on the Stargazer for like 20 years, and so you think about a guy you think about anybody who's doing a thing for 20 years, like, I got this, and just throw me the weird stuff or whatever. I kind of would love to have that Stargazer series, because it's like, does he have that wall up around people because he got too personally involved, and I think we know he did. We look at Jack Crusher and what happened there, and how he still carries that guilt around stuff. And so I think that experience really comes into play. Kirk is still young and he still like has that hope, whereas Picard's been beat up and he knows that, there's really no hope. But I think he does. He sees himself more detached, more as a mentor than anything else.
Is he too detached?
I think that he is. And I think there was an episode, oh my gosh, Lower Decks comes to mind, but it wasn't that one. But essentially, Riker's bringing something to
Picard about a crew member, and it happened with Barclay as well. But Picard's like, "Who's that?" I don't even. Now there's like 1,100 people on the ship, and you don't expect to know everybody. But Riker kind of has to. Like that's that's operations job, you know, is to know all of that. But
and you always get the impression Riker knows everyone.
Yeah. Well, I think Lower Decks did such a good job. I love, like, again, the episodes that show what the work is, you know, and it's like he's doing performance appraisals.
That's Riker's job.
Yeah. And so he knows everybody. And there was that moment where Picard's like, you know, who? I don't even know who that is.
Look, later in the series, he starts handing some of them off to like Deanna and shit. He's just like, look, like you do some of them, we'll do them together. It'll be a date.
It's all fine. As long as Workday shows the check marks, it's fine. The reports will look good. But Picard is more, you know, I always think of him more as a diplomat, you know, than a captain. And that's fine. That was the mission, you know, of
he's
the
captain
Enterprise.
on the flagship, right?
Yeah. He's out there.
Would he
doing
make
that
a
first
better
contact.
ambassador than captain?
I think that he does. You know, I think just looking at his involvement in the Klingon Empire and what he was able to do.
So the flagship suits him in that sense.
Exactly.
It's sort of the ambassadorial ship.
The thing I appreciate about him, and Dave, again, to your point of how he would sift through everything, is he was the one. Janeway gets the rap for violating the Prime Directive all the time. But let's talk about Picard for a minute, right? And it's just like,
man.
Yeah. Well, Kirk, it was still a developing, you know, directive at that point. But what I appreciate about the way Picard would violate it was he wouldn't do it blindly. Like, oh, I want this thing, so I'm going to cut through and do what I want. He would go through that mental exercise of like, what is the greater good here? And I think that's such an important quality in a leader, is understanding the actual point of the mission, not the literal word, but what's the intent and the spirit of what our mission is. And sometimes I'm going to have to break the rules to do this, and that's okay. I will face the music because you said to do this thing, and I'm going to do this thing.
That's something I feel like kind of faded away from Star Trek a bit, just over time throughout the series, kind of like after Deep Space Nine, maybe, where you didn't get to see those scenes of the internal struggle of the captain so much, and
I think
then bringing it to other people. But like, I feel like Strange New Worlds is bringing that back a bit, because Pike does that a lot.
It's great. It's, you know, people like to, I like to talk about how Star Trek does one thing better than almost any other TV show, and that's talk. There can be so much talking, and it can be engaging and exciting and awesome. But you do, in that talking, you get to, you know, pull out those thought processes, and you see the debates. I love how Picard specifically invites dissent. You know, he's like, you know, Geordi will be like, no, this isn't going to work at all. Well, show us why. Like, help me see this, you know, and tries to find that best possible answer from the team sitting at the table, not from him. And I think that's like that's leadership to aspire to.
Like, has there ever been a more intellectually curious character in anything, really? Right? Like that, all you have to do is present him with something he just slightly doesn't know enough about, and he's just like, okay, let's go.
Like, let's get a shovel and dig on this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to, at the end, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, but
please.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because I always felt like I love Picard, but I always felt like he was a little too detached as well.
Yeah. He would, you know, I think
it's his constitutional risk, right? And I like the way that you made that point, that like he's been beat up, and like he's had adversity in his life, and I think you're right. There are things that have caused him, losses and pain, that have caused him to close up. You know, I mean, just the way that he first meets Riker in Encounter at Farpoint. Wow. It's like just this icy wind blows through.
Well, you watch
the
that
way to his ready room.
You watch that and you just think, like, he had an experience where a first officer did him dirty, and you know, and he learned. I mean, it might be too heavy of a word.
Did his first officer do him dirty?
I don't know. Something must have happened. Yeah, I'm just like, the way he engaged Riker had to be like,
he's so on guard, right? And he's so like I've got to be steely.
Like, the fact that he had never met him before, like, that's not something we ever see in the other shows of Star Trek, really. I mean, like, except for DS9, where he was like given Kira, but usually the captains seem to choose people they know to be their or have served with to be their first officer.
Sure.
Like, it's very strange that he's just like, no, I want this guy. But that's also a very detached choice. It's like, there's no emotions here. It's just this guy can be my number one. He can be the all business number one. I'll be the all business captain. It'll be great.
It'll be good.
Then he met Riker. Just like, oh no, this isn't going to be all business at all.
He's a jazz man. Oh,
this guy plays the trombone. No.
I just love that scene with Jelly. Wow. It's like, oh, a contemporary. He's just like jazz.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just like Shaw does
like,
later on. Like, you don't like jazz?
Mistake.
No, I do not. Right. You're wrong, Shaw.
Jazz is man. Yeah.
But
now, speaking of captains who like jazz.
Yeah. Okay. That's look, Sisko's my captain. I feel like he's a kind of a mishmash of the two we've just talked about in a way. There is a detached quality to Sisko, but only while he's working. Like, he goes in his office and he doesn't really come out. Like, he's that guy. But after work, he'll take you to a ball game and get to know you that way. Or like Pike does, he'll cook for you or like something like that. So he'll get to know you, but man, is he like, once like the suit is on, like what? How? Yeah, is that something you've noticed about Sisko?
One of the things I wish I could do that they do in Star Trek is dismissed. Right? There's like they're talking. It's like dismissed. Just cut the thing off. No one says dismissed like Sisko. Like he's got stank on that. Right? Dismissed.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything he says has stank on it. That's why he's really my guy.
He's one of when I think of Sisko, I think he's an incredible leader and a terrible manager.
Because he seems not to want to do the management part
exactly.
so much.
Yeah, he's like, I just want to go do the cool stuff, or whatever, and which is Kirkish, in a way. Mm-hmm. And I think what we see with him, where Picard would weigh out, do I violate the directive? Do I break the rule? Sisko's just like, let's do it.
I'll worry about that later.
Exactly.
Which is what's beautiful about In the Pale Moonlight. It's the entire episode is just him digesting what had already happened.
Yeah.
It's such a great microcosm of everything Sisko in a way.
It is. It has become
He's got great
cliche.
intuition that way.
He does. He's a guy, like I think about it in terms of Picard is the kind of like leader that people will aspire to be, but Sisko is the kind of leader I want to work with.
Yeah,
because I think he's going to trust me. He's going to take care of me. If something goes wrong, he's going to fight for me. We see that.
And he might make me laugh, and vice versa.
Could be great, and he might give me explosive diarrhea with super spicy food that has to stink up his quarters. Like it's just like. That's got to smell.
Oh, he doesn't let you use his bathroom. You definitely have to go use your own.
Or they just beam it
All
out.
the ensigns just booting it down the hallway in their first week.
Yeah.
Imagine contaminating a captain's bathroom. I don't know. I don't think anyone would take the chance.
Don't go in there. But I did love the progression you brought up, Pike. I love the progression to him cooking, because what Sisko did is he cooked for the senior crew, right? The senior staff would come, he'd cook for them, they'd hang out, they had a really good camaraderie. Pike is like, hey, cadet that doesn't even blip on the radar. Why don't you come in, hang out with the crew and do stuff? So it's like they learned with Sisko, this is a really good thing. How do we make it a little bit better?
We'll give him a kitchen bigger than most people's quarters. That's what we'll do.
Yeah. Take up the whole wing.
Set of quarters.
Oh, I know. The fact that that's the same ship as Kirk gets, it's just like there's no way Kirk was rocking a kitchen like that. And that's the funniest thing. Visual reboots are necessary, but sometimes they're hilarious.
They go a little too far. I had the opportunity a couple months ago to tour the Enterprise set that the down in Georgia. The Trek oh my God, I can't remember the name. The fan fiction one that's so awesome. It was great.
Axanar.
Yeah.
Not Axanar. No.
No.
Trek Continues, maybe?
Oh man!
The show.
Oh, that is such a great set.
With the lighting and
Trek
stuff.
Continues. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I got to tour it, and they have Kirk's quarters in there, and
you feel compressed. Like it's just these two little sections of stuff there. And it's like, and it was all made to scale. They built those sets. They got the original blueprints and they built it to scale from that. So like everything is built just like it was. They had to go back and find like a bunch of retro fabrics and things for like the sick bay beds and everything. It was incredible. I got to sit in the captain's chair. That was amazing. But to the point, like Pike's quarters is the size of the entire set of what they have for the whole Enterprise. You know, it's just wow.
At least he makes it work, though. He's using that kitchen. I like what you said about Sisko there, because like that's sort of my thing, and that's sort of why he's my captain. Other than the fact that I love a lot of the things he loves, like music and jazz, and like he's in cooking and gardening, and he's an awesome guy. But and he's intense. But
yeah, and he's a dad, right?
And he's a dad.
You can't overlook that. He's a single dad who's like kind of doing a great job as a dad, as he's also doing a great job running this massive station. Like that's, I don't know how.
And that's sort of where he's like somewhat distracted from his job sometimes, because he does put so much.
I feel like it's one of the reasons why he doesn't want to get into the management level a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm doing this. Want to get off to Jake. Right? He's like, I got this kid who's like rattling around the station with a Ferengi.
Yeah.
And there's aliens everywhere. Like, I don't know. He's playing Domjot with Nausicaans.
Yeah, this is right. Not end well.
And they suck at Domjot.
And they get really
I
mad.
love that line in Lower Decks. They're like, what's Domjot? And Mariner's just like, oh, it's this game that Nausicaans love to play, but they're really bad at.
Yeah, that's so good. But from Sisko, like I stole the idea, the concept that like your job is important, but it's not more important than your family and the stuff going on there. So like I always tell my people that I work with, like, go, like get out of here. You know, this work will wait. Your kid's not going to. You know, and Sisko.
The more he makes his crew his family, the more like effective that idea becomes for him anyway.
Exactly.
But like it's like what you say. I recognize his somewhat flaws that he has as a leader, but he's still the one I would want leading me. Yeah, like you say.
Love to work with him.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Janeway. I'm a big Janeway defender on our network. Some are detractors.
Janeway suffers.
You know, I do see, as we mentioned, were you here with us on the captain's convention, or just the villains?
I don't think so. Just the villains.
Okay, the captain's one. She didn't make it to S tier. I was all about giving her S tier, but it was actually my co-host Dave here who convinced me that there is that time that she locked herself away from the crew for like a month. Yeah. And that's not good leadership. So that's why she got dropped down.
And Janeway suffers from really inconsistent writing.
Yes.
Well, I think
and a shitty situation.
Yeah. I think just so much that was working against her as as a character that just wasn't great. And Kate Mulgrew did a great job with it, but
yeah.
I feel like
I love it, frankly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it. They brought that darkness out in her. That there are even moments where she's just like, oh, and just collapses into herself. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
It just wasn't a great captain move, because they're all like begging her to come back, and she's just like, get out of here. It's just like, whoa, they're like now begging you to come back and lead them. You should probably go do it. But,
or the other side is be open and transparent with them. So like I don't want to bring the conversation down, but earlier this year I had a pretty severe mental health crisis. And I'm good, and I have great supports and help and everything. But there's a while I was not good, and it really impacted my work. And there were times where I wanted to Janeway, just hide away and go, and I kind of did.
Have you tried drinking?
That's part of what led. No, it's not. No. Long story there. I don't drink that much anymore. I like the taste. I don't like the feel. So I have like a drink anymore, But yeah, so I was not good, and I kind of checked out a little bit. But the thing I did differently than Janeway is when people would say, hey, we need this or whatever, I'd say, hey, I'd love to, but here's where I am, and this is what I can offer. Is that going to be enough? You know, I was just transparent with them. What that has done, though, is, so like me sharing with my teams that I'm seeing a therapist, that I was on antidepressants and things like that really inspired people, because I'm in a position of privilege and power. People see me doing that. That inspired people to go see a therapist and get back on their antidepressants and help people
great
be
leadership.
healthier. Exactly. And Janeway had the opportunity to do that with her team. But you know, 98,
there were a lot
everyone-
of them were feeling the same thing she was. They were all
Mhm.
depressed about that void.
Mhm.
I mean, she was
Yeah.
feeling the guilt of stranding them there, but they were all feeling
Mhm.
the depression of the
Yeah.
situation they were in.
And if she could stand up and use that as a leadership, be the example, oh my God, like use
Yeah.
use your hardships to show people it's okay.
And most of the time, she was.
And it may point out that they'd sort of, in some ways, the writing there was hitting the limits of sort of late 90s, early 2000s, thinking about what a strong leader, even a strong leader in a military situation, might be, right? I think we've seen a huge development in how these captains can get written.
Yeah.
From, I mean, the lovely flawed captain of the Cerritos to, again, I mean, back to Pike, who is a fascinating amalgam of a lot of these things. Right?
Yeah. Janeway, I think
We'll get to him.
we will. Yeah. Janeway, I think, is really well encapsulated in the first season episode, The Cloud. So
Okay.
that's the one, of course, there's coffee in that nebula. Everyone knows that. But what I know it for is B'Elanna and her are talking, and they still have some friction or whatever. And we get a lot
They
of
have
Janeway's
great conversations in that
They
show.
do.
Those
Well,
two.
Janeway and her and Seven, like her relationships and conversations were, especially when it was her and another woman, like they just
Yeah.
it was really well done.
It was magic sometimes.
But she has this inner monologue going on around how close do I get to these people? She actually like works through the Picard problem of, hey, I'm the captain. Also, her first command, right? People forget that this is her first command. Well, of a starship, right? She had commanded teams and things like that, but her first starship. And she comes in, she's like, I got to maintain this like level of, professionalism and some distance or whatever. Also, this is a generational trip at this point, and do I let him come close? And the way that she worked through that and kind of found a middle ground to the whole thing, I thought was brilliant. And we see that play out throughout the entire series, where there are times she's very close, and then there's the times where she's like dismissed, and just kicks him out and plays business. I think she did a really good job with that. But I think ultimately I compare her to Picard in a lot of ways. But Picard had the Admiralty. He had Starfleet Command. He had other starships to call upon. Janeway was the top of the food chain. The buck stopped with her. And despite that, and we see the juxtaposition in Equinox, but she chose to mostly stick to Starfleet values. It's the hard way, right? The Janeway, as they say. But she did it the way that aligned with her values and the values of the organization she was representing, even though that was the harder decision. That's good leadership. And it would have been so easy for her to pull what Ransom did on the Equinox and just be like, let's just chew stuff up to get out of here.
And you could,
Well,
I would say, of
think
all
about
her
the-
decisions, that one worked the best. The decision to make the Maquis Starfleet and have them follow all the rules, that seemed to pay off the best. And she said it would, and I think she was right about that.
Well, I think, if you look later, I wonder, I hope we see more of what's going on in the Delta Quadrant in Star Trek to come. But partly because I'd love to see what the legacy of Voyager is going to be. Because Equinox was kind of puttering along, but
We've seen that
Voyager
episode.
really
They're a
makes this
warship.
streak
They had
across the Delta
1,000 photon cannons. They wore black gloves. That's the legacy of Voyager. Death, destruction, terror.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. What a great episode. Oh,
It was.
man, I'd forgotten that one.
Janeway, I think, is someone to aspire to in a lot of ways. And I think another thing that Janeway does that a lot that leaders need to do is she trusted Tuvok as not only as like a colleague, but as a mentor and someone that she could confide in. Given the situation and the org structure and whatever, that probably wasn't, HR appropriate, but you're 70,000 light years away. And leaders need to have that mentor, that person they can vent to, they can get advice, they can bounce ideas off of. And I loved how the show demonstrated that so often, where she'd have a problem in a thing and she'd be like, Tuvok, let's talk about this thing. And it's like, just the humility to look for help. And Janeway,
because of
often
that, he
had
just seemed to have what would seem to other Vulcans and to even other crew members an illogical trust in her. And he would even say that. He would just be like, yes, like, I'm going to agree with her. She's going to do something illogical, but look, for her, it works. He's like, he's even does the numbers. He's like, look, I've done the numbers. It's like a 95% probability that her crazy shit works. Like,
He's like, I don't get it, but it works.
So I go with it.
More power to her. Yeah. It's logical
Yeah.
to follow her logic that doesn't make sense to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
There's
that's a very trusting relationship for a Vulcan.
There's a lesson in that for all of us, right? Like,
Yeah,
hey, you do your thing your way. It's cool. I don't have to understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, she does get a lot of flack, Janeway, because I think some of the other captains, like certainly Picard, if Picard was thrown in the Delta Quadrant for 7 seasons, I think a lot of fans would be like, oh, but he was in an impossible situation. And like,
Right.
maybe Janeway doesn't get that kind of break as often.
Well, I remember, I'm old enough that like I remember TNG when it debuted, right? We're people of a certain age. And I very keenly remember when Voyager was coming out and the hate that came out. A woman captain? Oh my God! The next thing you're going to tell us is, it started with Deep Space Nine, right? Like a dude that's black being the leader. Well, next thing you're going to tell me is women can captain a starship. Like what's? Oh my God! They made a woman.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
they've done that.
They were pissed about it, and I'm always fascinated. It happens, now with the Trek that's coming out today, but a show that just embraces inclusion and acceptance and the sheer hate that comes from the quote fan base when they're like, hey, we're going to push the envelope just a little bit. But I think
then they're like, here for those fans, we're going to throw you Scott Bakula, and they're all just like,
nah.
It's just like, well, look,
Janeway,
we can't win.
Yeah, but no, I think
like, no, but you played the guitar in the starting. It's still
Where are the
not even Scott Bakula could save that. After that, anyway, never mind.
That's a good segue. I have strong feelings about Archer.
Okay,
all right.
I'll be interested to hear these because I think I'm probably an Archer defender on this network as well.
Okay, Archer Enterprise is an arc for Archer. Like he ends in a really great place. But I'll say the first 3.5-ish seasons, he is horrible. Like he would get fired for discrimination, for harassment, for a hostile work environment. He has a bro culture, right? We're like, hey, you're gonna watch water polo with me, or I don't really want to, whatever. And then when he doesn't get his way, he whines like a baby. Was that a night in sick bay or whatever? When he's just like, "Well, I don't want to apologize." A whole episode of him just bitching about taking accountability. Oh my God!
That is bad leadership.
Yeah, there's an episode, an early one. I think it's.
I guess where I cut him a little slack is he was the first one to try to figure all this shit out. But but that doesn't have anything to do with your leadership style.
Exactly.
The
way I understand it, like that, they were an evolution from like the military, your Air Force, whatever. There were great leaders there. It's not like he's the first person in a command position.
Yeah.
But I think the what makes Enterprise helps make it appealing is that growth that he experiences, and really in the crucible of season 3, where he hit some real lows personally, but he learned from that, right? And I think that's where I watched season 4, and I'm just like, you're not stuck.
And you do see that. Like he slowly does get a bit better. It's not just like all of a sudden he's a good leader. You sort of see it happen, and that is well written.
He does start making dramatically different choices in season 4, though. It's true.
Well, in season 4, he just feels like Picard. He just feels like the king shit, who's like at the top of the food chain as far as like the command structure goes. Like Picard doesn't mind bucking off an admiral or two because he's just like, I'm the leader of I'm friggin' Picard. Like, who are you? What admiral are you? Nobody knows you. Like, Picard's or Archer seemed to get to that point.
That was really cool. But he wasn't. I think of the episode "Strange New World," where Phlox has one of the people who has like the plant stuff growing through him or whatever, and Phlox is like, "This dude's gonna die. I am broken up, and I can't. I can't believe I can't save this guy." Like Phlox is literally laying his heart out to Archer, and Archer yells at him, "I need this right now!" And I don't get like. And I just watched that scene, and I was like, "What the?" One of my favorite episodes I did for Starfleet Leadership Academy was Enterprise Catwalk, the episode where they had to hang out in the nacelle for a while.
And it's because he was awful in that episode. Like he had an opportunity to like hang out with the people and get to, nope, he created his own little space where only he and T'Pol could be, and it was this whole thing. So I actually rewrote the episode I'm like, let's do a rewrite and show you what he should have done in this situation and how it would have turned out better.
Nice.
We have a listener question here. In the Star Trek realm, we know that when captains send the red shirts into an unknown situation, there are casualties. There is an acceptable number of casualties before the captain regroups and rethinks his strategy. Why is that acceptable as a leader? Is that, at Jeff, managerial style? Would we be better off if businesses adopted the Japanese style of business where it's the leader who takes the blame for failure and resign or commit seppuku? Well, I don't think seppuku is the answer.
Yeah.
Let's just say that right now.
That might be a little bit.
But what do you think of that comment, Jeff?
You know, it's a thing that I think about this a lot because at a high level. So there's two different things happening in that question. One, the end I'll take first. Leaders should always take the blame 100% of the time. It's a thing where, so I used to manage a group of lawyers who would represent our company, and one of them screwed up bad, and the judge was ripping me, and I'm like, so I took, I authorized that. That's on me. Chew me up. Go ahead and write a letter, like all that stuff. Then I went and met with the lawyer afterwards. I'm like, I swear to God, if you ever put me in this position again, blah, blah, blah. But I did that behind closed doors.
That sounds like Cisco to me.
Totally.
That's what Cisco does. Cisco will take it on the chin and then chew you out, man. So you're so afraid you will never do it again.
But the piece with the red shirts going out and what's an acceptable amount of casualties, it's difficult because we're not explorers, we're not military, like we're not in a situation where our lives are necessarily on the line all the time. That said, I think I would like it if in Star Trek, when people died on away missions or things, they actually spent a minute, even being like, oh my gosh, Jenkins was great and he's going to be missed.
They gave Tasha a minute.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, the conception of what those expectations should be can vary so wildly, right? Like the conflict that I suppose I know the most about would be the First World War, and in 1914-15, standard casualty expectations for an engagement, if they were sort of sending a regiment across no man's land, could be anywhere from 20 to 40%, but then you hit the 1st of July 1916 and the average jumps, right? Because you have some regiments taking 90% casualties on the day, some take 50, and your average settles out somewhere around 45 to 50%, which is for days of intense
that
fighting.
Doesn't seem acceptable under most circumstances, but
right? It's absolute madness. And the people that are in it recognize this. They're like, yeah, but this is what the math works out to. So our projections say we should expect that. And there you can see the recognition of a complete insanity in it, even though the character of what they're doing leads them to expect that. I would assume Starfleet would not send people into those positions if they were expecting 50% casualties, though, right? Yeah. I'm guessing Starfleet's tolerance is, because they're not in the middle of all-out trench warfare, far lower. I mean, during the Dominion War, I would expect their projections to be far higher.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we come back to a pale moonlight, right? Like the reason he does that whole thing is he's sick of the lists, because that's paying a little attention to the casualties that you want there. DS9 did more of that, I would think, than the other shows, where he's just like, I read every name.
Yeah,
he's like, they're not just names. He's like, it's important we remember that. And then he's just like, because that's his mentality, each name is not just a name. He's read so many names that it basically drives him insane.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least has him do things he wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, pushes him over the edge.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. So he's a great, that's another reason that makes Cisco an appealing leader, is someone who leads you. You get the feeling that he cares about you.
Yeah. Life matters, and I think, to wrap it back to the question, we don't deal in human capital, right? Like that, where lives are on the line necessarily. But I do think at some point, I mean, gosh, I feel like an asshole even saying this, but like in business, it's like, how much investment can I put on the line? You know, like what's an acceptable loss for me to try this thing? Now, people aren't money. I want to be really clear that I'm not saying that, but that's the closest I can kind of compare, the things to. But real quick story I'll share is like, since over the last 3 years, there's been a lot of stuff going on in the world, but I've had 6 people on my teams die, like go home and then not come back, sort of a thing, like unexpected, like horrible, and just
it seems
so
like
traumatic.
a large number for such a thing.
It's a lot. And it's to the point where I think it was like the 4th or 5th, and I was talking to my wife, to my partner about it, and I was like, I'm comfortable pulling my team together and telling, like, this is a skill I have developed, is to pull my team together and deliver this news. And I say comfortable, I still feel like garbage, and it's heart-wrenching to have to do, but I was like, I knew what to do. And when I think about, sending the red shirts out or whatever, you're captain of a starship, that's a skill you've developed. I understand that this is a thing, like I'm making a life and death decision every time.
Picard sent his best friend to die.
He did.
Yeah.
A couple times, actually.
What was the second time?
Well, if we're talking about Data, right? He died back in Nemesis. He died again in the travesty that was Picard season
1 and 2.
And a chunk of
season 3 was great.
Most of it was great. Yes.
Most of it. I mean, I've recently been talking to one of the hosts of the Where's Beverly podcast, and they're not particularly fond of what they did to Beverly in that season.
Yeah.
All right, let's let's move on to I guess that brings us to Captain Burnham.
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap Discovery into one big thing, because they had Saru, they had Lorca, and I don't know if this will be controversial or not, but to a person, they were terrible captains. Like, there's not been a good leader or captain on Discovery yet. Lorca's great for studying leadership, because like when I get
can I push back on that for 1 second?
Yeah.
My favorite episode of Discovery is the first one, because I feel like it's the episode that actually has a good leader, which is the original Georgiou.
Georgiou's great for like an episode and a half, right?
Yeah. Minute for minute, she's the greatest leader in Star Trek.
Sure.
Yeah.
Leadership per unit is very high.
It's very high. Her utils are great.
Not bad.
Yeah, Georgiou's awesome. Like, there's like her razzing between Burnham and Saru, right? Oh, they agree. Better mark my... God, that's so good. I think they
is it always this sarcastic on the bridge? She's like, not always, but I do like it.
Yeah. I think they took so much of what they had for Georgiou, and they put it into Pike, I think is what happened, because Pike's also that. But Lorca's great. Okay, yeah. Well, just real quick on Discovery.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lorca's great to study because you just do the opposite of what he does, and it's great. Saru is a great study as well, because Saru thinks he's great, and he is not. He does. Well, he performatively he does. Deep down, he has so much doubt and everything. Yeah. There's the episode Choose Your Pain.
True, he always seems very certain in his decisions.
Exactly.
This is the right Starfleet decision.
Like, and he makes a decision, and he is frozen in that decision because he made it and will not be swayed. And it's like, no, you need to listen to information. But I think it was in Choose Your Pain, when Lorca's on the Klingon ship and he's in charge. He's like, he asked the computer, hey, who are the greatest Starfleet captains? What were the traits that made him good? And will you rate me on doing that? I actually have when people join my mailing list, I created a document where they can do that same thing, which is kind of cool. But like, he utterly failed, and I think that stuck with him, and he wanted to make up for it when he was captain. So there's some really good leadership studies in Discovery. There's not a lot of good leaders, except for Pike in season 2.
Let's move on to the hair.
Yeah, dude,
move on to the hair.
I am angry.
They're trying to make us love him as like the perfect leader. It's like, and it's working. But I'm like, you know what? I know what you're doing, Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like,
I almost hate it.
Building their heart up just to break it.
Because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
For my podcast, I have this random episode generator, so each episode is randomly taken from somewhere in the
I was
in the
wondering
whole
how
franchise.
Interesting.
Yep, I just have a
That's
macro in Excel.
Yeah,
Boop, I
that's
hit it,
fun.
and it comes up with the next. I have to entertain myself, as well.
Yeah.
But whenever
But
go
I have a
strange-
macro. In
That's why I'm
Excel.
here.
yeah, nerd, right? We were talking about that earlier. So,
Yes, back to the start.
always circles. But I hate when I get a Strange New Worlds episode because I'm just like, I have to talk about literally every word that comes out of his mouth because it's perfect every time. And it's let's play the
Like
episode.
he's
for
the
you.
speech talker of Picard. He's the buddy guy after work, like of Cisco. He's like the mom dad character of a Janeway. Like
Mhm.
they took the best qualities of all of them. He even has a bit of the cowboy of in
Kirk.
that charm of Kirk. It's
Yeah.
they're trying
And
so
he
hard and
still
it's
has
working.
flaws,
It's like,
right?
yes, I know what they're doing.
He still goes snooping through personnel files.
Yeah.
Right, like this. I like the fact that Pike, even though he's excellent, there is this undercurrent of like everyone has their weird hobby horse things that you just have to accept, like, or that they've done wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to be like, well, we're going to have to work together, or that every person is a mixed bag or something, right? I like the fact that there are these deep flaws in him.
Yeah. The way he falls apart. I mean, he has a for real existential crisis on his hands every minute of every day, right? Like this is
That's
my
an
last
interesting way to take that whole show too. They're like, we're gonna show him his death, and like, there's your show. It's like, okay,
fill in the blanks, and
Yeah.
but it's brilliant the way they do it because he's weak in those moments, but he shows strength in leaning on Spock, leaning on number one. Again, taking those pieces, they took that Janeway Tuvok relationship, added this whole "I'm going to die pretty soon" thing on top of it, and then had he has like a support around him. His whole team kind of.
he has a
supports him.
great crew, and like,
Yes.
and for him, like they all
Great.
they all have that vibe, like
Mhm.
except for Spock. But even Spock, this young Spock, I love this young Spock.
I do too.
He kind of has that vibe too.
I'm so excited to see. I'm excited for this. It's the Star Trek I'm most excited about. I love Lower Decks, but I'm so excited for Strange New Worlds because what we know about Spock, Spock was willing to die for Kirk. He was willing to throw away his career and everything for Pike. And so like I want to see that, where like basically his two greatest loves were his captains, and we're going to get to see how that developed and how it pays off, and I think that's going to be amazing.
And however this Chapel thing ends, because it has to end.
Yeah.
Like this dalliance with him and Chapel, we know it ends. It's to the point where they don't even really acknowledge each other so much anymore.
Yeah, I am
Yes.
eager for that to end, by the way.
Yeah,
so.
I am too.
Mhm.
So
It's
I
a
hope
very-
it
like
happens
that-
sooner than later.
Nurse
I
Chapel
don't
may
think it
be
will.
the oddest aspect of that whole show.
I love her
It's-
as Chapel.
She's great fun, but she's a weird take on
Yeah.
the person we meet in the original series.
Oh, yeah.
She's been through some stuff that gets her there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's say you get to. No, I know you got to get out here in a few. But here's a question I have for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Has Star Trek as a franchise displayed any leadership?
Wow, that's a great question. Yes.
That's why I'm
And-
in the left the
Right.
chair here.
Yeah, it's you earned it right there. Yeah, I think yes, and I'm gonna point right out of the gate to current Star Trek that's coming out right now, where we are pushing the envelope of what's shown on TV. Discovery was wild. I think it was season 3. Someone pointed out to me there's not a single leading character on here who's a cisgendered heterosexual white man, and I didn't even notice that, which says everything about the level of privilege I have, right? And Star Trek did that because someone has to, to go out there, and they have that track record that goes all the way back to Kirk and Uhura that William Shatner had to fight to make happen, right? Because the network did
I love it. They
everything.
kept messing up the takes.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. It's just great.
Yeah.
And even, Nichelle, I'm talking about people in it, but Leonard Nimoy took a pay cut to make sure Nichelle Nichols could get paid and stuff. So the people did, but the franchise supported that. But I think time and again,
The franchise has chosen to do to go one step further than what society is comfortable with. And that's part of what makes us comfortable with that next step. And I think that shows tremendous courage and leadership as well. Yeah, it's great. They've also shown some poor leadership. And with that, I look at like the CBS Paramount side of things, you know, the way they kind of attack some fan films, some stuff like that was pretty petty. Also, that's not necessarily the
Well, you
franchise,
know,
those are the
imitation
lawyers.
is the sincerest form of flattery. They didn't see it that way, clearly.
No, not so much. But,
No.
Well,
IP is
we were
the
talking to
sincerest
J.G.
form of
Hertzler
flattery.
about
Thank
that
you.
because he's in Axanar, and he was just
Yeah.
Mm.
apparently they were mad at him. Like they had him on the outs with the company for a while because he was in it.
Yeah.
wasn't Walter Koenig in it too? Or that was a different
No,
one?
he was in Gods and Men, or was that what it was called?
Okay.
Something like
Something
that.
like that. Yeah.
That one was directed by Tim Russ, I think, and he's a good musician. But my problem with that movie was like the opening minute or 5 minutes feels like 45 minutes, and it's just this long, boring piece of music that is quite loud and never goes away. And like all you see during this boring piece of music is Walter Koenig sitting there, old and depressed looking, and like it's not a good way to start a movie. It probably gets better.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But all right. Well, anything final to say? Anyone? Any final thoughts on the leadership of Star Trek before we get out of here?
There's no better place to learn leadership. I mean, for real. It's to me, the magic of it is you can go buy a book by like John Maxwell or Simon Sinek or something like that, and it's all like the 56 rules of this, the 32 pillars of that. Or I can say, hey, I can pull the whole Temerian thing. You know, it can literally be like Janeway with Chakotay in the bathtub. You know, it's like, oh, look at that leadership thing she did. It's but it's relatable. You know, it's not some like highfalutin, look how important I am because I'm a leader and I wear a suit and whatever. No, this is something people can relate to, and it makes it a lot more accessible for people. And that's the goal, man. Like Star Trek shows us where we want to go. Let's start moving that direction. Just to step on a semi-political thing right now, but we're in election season. Think about that, right? Think about the people who are running for whatever office in your area.
Good luck,
and
Jeff.
Say,
As Canadians, good luck, sir.
right? Yeah,
We somewhat depend on your luck as well. So
right.
good luck.
Yeah. I have looked at immigration for what it takes.
Well, we're glad to have you, man. Look, don't let people convince you there's only Ontario and BC in this country. Nova Scotia.
That's true.
Great.
We also get covered in snow up here.
It's
nice.
winter today.
Oh,
I almost made a
we've had
post
some-
a minute ago that was just like, "Yep, that's winter."
Yep.
It's
We've had over a
winter.
meter of
Great.
snow since in the last few days.
What?
They certainly did in Cape Breton. They just declared a state of emergency.
Yeah,
Because of the
it's
snow
ridiculous.
quantity. Yeah, it is ridiculous.
I'm sure everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
It'll be
No, yeah, what could
fine.
possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
Everybody, for more on leadership, check out the Starfleet Leadership Academy. I really, really think you should. It's good stuff.
Thank you. You can catch it at starfleetleadership.academy and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. Great logo too.
Thanks.
Indeed.
And you can catch us at
all the
the
places.
Tutors of Trek
You get your
at
podcasts.
gmail.com. You can email us there. You can find us on Facebook. You can send me a message. I get back to everybody.
Yeah.
But that's it for us for now. So I guess there's only one thing to
One
say.
thing to say. And transmission.